right out of Hollywood, a reality show too good to be true. Welcome to a special edition of Game Time Live. Magic Johnson, with an impromptu press conference, has announced he is stepping down as president of basketball operations of the Lakers. Welcome into our wall-to-wall coverage of this explosive breaking news story with David Griffin, with Mike Fratello. I'm Jared Greenberg. The Lakers are currently going through their worst stretch of basketball they've ever played on court. This will be their sixth consecutive season missing the playoffs. This may be off the court the low moment of all of this, the surprise nature of this. Magic Johnson talking for nearly 43 minutes just moments ago on our air. If you missed any of it, he hadn't told Jeannie Buss, he hadn't told Rob Pelinka, he hadn't told LeBron James. Magic Johnson makes this decision, Dave, within the last couple of hours here, says that he wants to be more of a big brother, wants to have friends around the league, wants to go and have fun again, didn't like the backstabbing. What's your reaction to not only Magic Johnson surprising us all by stepping down, but the fact that he had told no one prior to having this impromptu press conference?
Well, I have a few competing thoughts. First of all, when Steve Kerr came to the Phoenix Suns in the role of president, one of the things that I think he immediately felt within a month was that, and he shared this publicly, was that there's far more that goes into running a team than he realized. So I think part of it was Magic being caught off guard with exactly how all-consuming a role like that has to be with the Lakers when you bring LeBron James in a situation with that much scrutiny. I think there was a level of that he just didn't really understand how consuming it would be, one. The thing that really strikes me is how at peace he is with this, which is something else, frankly, that I saw in Steve Kerr when Steve made the decision to resign in Phoenix and come here, in fact, to Turner before going to coaching. He seems very much at peace. He seems happy and comfortable. So in that sense, I'm happy for Magic. But maybe the understatement of the 25 years that I've been in the NBA was what he said right towards the very end when he said, I know Jeannie will be caught off guard. He loved her so much he couldn't face her, so she had to hear about it through the media. That's a very, very painful way for Jeannie to hear it, because you can tell when Magic speaks, there is genuine familial love that they feel for one another. Magic said a couple of different times, Coach, in a few different ways, adding on to what you were saying, Griff, I couldn't face her to tell her because I love her too much. And also to add on to what you said, Magic Johnson said, I'm a free bird now. I've been handcuffed. What's your reaction to all of these powerful statements by Magic Johnson tonight?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts besides the surprise element of what took place. To go back to a statement that Griff just made about not telling anyone and how completely surprised some of those people are going to be. I think he also is smart enough to know that if he would have told anyone, it was never getting to the point of him having the press conference and announcing it. This thing would have broken all over the place. And the one thing he didn't want to do is have a leak take place. He wanted to be able to express himself and say what he wanted to say, how he said it, without 25 stories breaking ahead of time, giving their views of what Magic is really thinking. Now, it's tough to do both things. Keep that relationship with those people like Jeannie Buss, et cetera, and not tell her so you could break the news yourself and tell it your way. There's a conflict there, but it also, in his mind, may have been the only way that he could have done it. What I heard in this press conference was a very unhappy person dropping out of his position because of the pressures and the stress, as you just mentioned, that are brought about by this job. I heard him go back to the teachings of Pat Riley and building a culture for a franchise. He used two words that are directly associated with Pat Riley. And one were misery, and the other was whispers. Something that in the culture of Pat Riley in building a championship team, they are so often talked about, the whispers behind people's back. Instead of saying it to your face, they talk about you behind your back, and then the next guy talks about you behind the back, and then it spreads throughout the locker room. You can't win that way with that kind of thing taking place. So when I heard Magic say those two words, I was thinking There are the lessons that were learned when Pat was coaching that team and Magic was playing and they were winning championships together, and it was happening to him, and he didn't like it. He didn't want to deal with it any longer. So he elected to step down and get away from it. Believe me, coaching, front office, you know when you're in a job and you're not happy with your job. But how many people have the strength and the courage to step down from it? Because they say, well, I can't step down from this. It would be embarrassing for me to step down from this. I've got to work my way, fight my way through it.
I understand all of this. We're trying to digest. What is going to go down in the annals of the NBA is one of the strangest nights in the history of the league. Because not only does it come out of nowhere that Magic resigns, but the fact that he had not informed anyone. Can you put your finger on what is more unusual, what makes this situation more strange?
Well, I think the points Coach made about why he didn't inform anyone are very valid. If you inform someone, you lose the opportunity to do what he just did, and he very clearly wanted to control the narrative. So in that sense, I understand why he did it in this way. What I think is really significant about this situation is it's hard for me to remember a time when an individual stepped down from a position of this magnitude at a franchise that is this focal to the league and left them in a more tenuous position than the Lakers are right now today. It's hard to even fathom what showing up at work tomorrow will feel like for all those people that remain.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's quite evident to pretty much everyone that the Lakers are not in a great spot right now, and the fact that they have to deal now with this. And by the way, the Lakers are about 45 minutes away from tipping off what should be their last game of the season, and no one's going to pay attention to that. But there were several instances where Magic, during this nearly 43-minute impromptu press conference, said that he feels his team was actually going in the right direction. He said at one point, we're not that far away. We're one guy away from getting to the Western Conference Finals. We're not that far away from everyone else.
Well, if that guy's Kevin Durant, he might be right. I mean, realistically, you're talking about a situation where they have a template from which they can build. And as long as they don't spend any bad money this offseason and put themselves in harm's way, no harm really befalls them moving forward. They don't even necessarily have to land the plane on the right big name free agent now. What they have to do is fight the urge to do something that feels like you are landing the plane. So it's a fascinating situation. And again, I cannot imagine what it would be like to show up in that facility tomorrow, any more than I can imagine how those players must feel taking the court tonight.
Well, tell me this, is Jeannie Buss's biggest decision her next one as to who steps in and takes over in the leadership of this program in making all these decisions that you just mentioned they're going to have to make right now, and who are going after, what are we doing with the existing guys? Magic's talking about these young players that are developing that are part of this championship team he sees. On the other hand, 3 or 4 of them may not be there if they wind up doing a deal where they're trading them away.
Well, and they were all led to believe they were being traded at one point, right? So this is a very fractured situation even before this happens tonight.
That's why this next guy has to be
Agreed.
The right guy.
And what's amazing about all of that is that they found that right guy 2 years ago when Jeannie essentially fired her brother, right, to replace him with Magic Johnson. And then they come into this day, game 82 of the season, thinking their biggest decision is whether to fire Luke Walton or retain him for another year. And now their whole world gets turned upside down. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to be joined by a lot of guests throughout the NBA as Magic Johnson has stepped down as president of basketball operations. Dwayne Wade has played his final home game as the Miami Heat have officially been eliminated. We'll take you through the playoff scenarios as well and much more in our breaking news story. Magic Johnson has stepped down as president of basketball operations for the Los Angeles Lakers.